As a kid, I moved around a lot. I was a military kid, but I would say I spent most of my formative years in Louisiana. I always like to think of myself as like the Cajun Asian. For me, whenever I imagined opening a restaurant, I always said our service experience should be like if your friends are coming to your house and you're just throwing a slightly nicer dinner party, but you want to obviously make the best food you can for your friends and the best beverages for your friends. So I think the space really allows us to do that. And you really feel like you're part of our team, part of our family. I actually didn't go to culinary school, but I have a 4-year degree and an advanced degree. To pay for those, I worked in restaurants. I've always wanted to cook in the back of my mind, but I did a traditional university to kind of do with my parents what they wanted me to do. We were a lot more heavily Japanese influenced when we opened, but the more I cooked here and like came up with dishes, I realized a lot of the guests were drawn more to the dishes where I drew inspiration from like me growing up in Louisiana, from my Vietnamese background. One of our signature dishes here that everyone really loves, and it's one of my favorites. I think it does a good job of blending my Japanese sushi background into like my Southeast Asian background. It's our hamachi crudo. So we break down a hamachi fillet every day, and we make a fish sauce vinaigrette. So on the bottom of the bowl, there's fish sauce vinaigrette and orange segments. We take the oranges away from the pit and all the skin and the membrane, so you get a nice clean orange piece. A little bit of yuzu flavored roe and orange oil, because we want that acidity to go all through the dish. I think it's a fun bite. It looks very, very unassuming in a bowl. Right, it's beautiful, but you don't expect like so much flavor to come out of it.
Yeah, it's a really lovely squash that has.
So my friend is in town for a conference, and he loves all different types of foods. And I was here about 2 months ago, and the menu was fantastic, and the food was really, really great. And so I told him that I needed to bring him here, and so I literally made reservations shortly after. Everything they do really well, and I like that it's, for sharing, because you can try a lot of different things. It's definitely exotic. It's definitely not the type of Asian food I'm accustomed to, but it balances itself and complements itself really well.
I think this is like the story for a lot of like immigrant families. They come to America and everyone in our family works like a blue collar job, but they want their kids to have a white collar job. For me, opening up this restaurant was hard, not because opening a restaurant is hard. The hardest thing for me was to tell my mom that I didn't want to work the 9 to 5 and I didn't want the stability, but I wanted to work in a restaurant and just like do a lot of physical labor. And I was afraid I was gonna like break her heart. But at the end of the day, she was actually a big supporter of what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of us also forget that our parents came over here to sacrifice everything so we can kind of like live out our dreams too. So my dream was to cook, and she was in full support of that.